Come on, guys, what's with all the anxiety? Arsenal are set to break a Premier League record this season by winning the title with 65 points. This is the ArsenalVision post-match podcast, and it's me, Phil Costa, in the hosting chair while Elliot is away getting some well-earned rays and probably a cocktail or two by the pool. I mean, those Zatari camp donations aren't going to spend themselves, but don't worry, you've been left in capable hands. And for today's main pod episode, I'm joined by Clive. Hello, Clive.
Hello.
And we've also got Paul. Hello, Paul.
Woohoo!
I mean, if you haven't listened already, there was an instant reaction on Saturday night with Elliot, Clive and Paul. And I think they did a good job of balancing some of the frustration from the result with some perspective about where we are in terms of the title race and, more importantly, where others are, which made for a really good chat. I mean, we don't usually get Clive on the IR, so it was nice to see him let loose a little bit, get some emotions out. Although maybe calling for the manager's head and wanting Odegaard stripped of the captaincy felt a bit extreme to me. But that's the magic of the IR. It's raw, it's unfiltered. And obviously the main pods give everybody a chance to decompress now that we've slept on it a little bit. So 0-0, not the most entertaining game. Arsenal against Nottingham Forest. We have struggled at the City Ground recently. I think we've won there once in our last 6 attempts there in all competitions. So, we've got some history there. We've got some history with Sean Dyche. But before we get into the game, let's talk about the lineup, because there were 3 changes from the team that beat Chelsea at Stamford Bridge on Wednesday, with David Raya obviously coming in for Kepa, and Noni Madueke and Martinelli both starting out wide. I mean, they were standing a little bit. And I have to be honest, some early alarm bells were ringing, because even though they started away at Bournemouth and did pretty well, that was a more open game. I think with Bournemouth pressing high, leaving spaces in transition, I didn't expect that from Forest, who were always going to be compact, organised. They like to double up in the wide areas. And those profiles felt a bit more suited to green grass and running in behind, although Arteta did mention that Saka was carrying something or maybe not ready to start the full game. So maybe we didn't want to risk everything. But on a day where we would probably need some patience and lock-picking ability in the final third, those two playing alongside Gyokeres felt quite loose and unpredictable from a technical standpoint. Clive, what were your thoughts on the lineup? Did you agree that this might have been a front line for a different day, or was it just your run-of-the-mill rotation?
Yeah, when I see a team, I just like to think, okay, so what are we trying to do? Right, so we can all pick a team after the game, right? So what are we trying to do? And I called out our loosey goosey front 3, right? They can't trap it, they can just run, right? So so it's all about how you surround them and how you get close to them. And I don't think we got close to them enough. If we get close to them, we got close to them with fullbacks. Don't get me started with that at the moment, because I think we're doing that too much. Fullbacks in the top line.
I'll ask you later. Keep it in reserve, ready to go.
Well, it's not the first time I've said it. So fortunately now people are coming around to it. So I feel quite predictive. But yeah, I never mind a lineup, long as we play to it. So you can create space in behind if you want to keep the ball at the back and rotate around, bring them onto you, and then go long and hit them. You can do that. But then who's going to be your target to receive? And so this way when Saka plays, he's almost like the centre forward because he's the most secure. Then he rolls inside and we can go from there. Noni's not as secure back to goal. We saw that, at Portsmouth, shall we say, on the first goal. And Martinelli, well, I've been watching for 6 years. I'm still not sure what I'm going to get, right? So, and Gyokeres, it's 1 in 2, right? If he can hold the ball up. So I wasn't sure what the plan was, but I'm never too worried about a fast, intense team at the start of a game, because a lot of our football at the start of games is a lot more off the ball. And so we can be quite high energy, push them back, getting them into mistakes, press them. And then as the game transpires and the minutes are ticking by, you're thinking, we need something else. We shouldn't have picked this team to start with. And I think it comes clear to you. I just why I never worry too much. With the 5-sub ball, we can do things, and we're being more aggressive about doing things that are appropriate to the game that's on offer. I think Forest's back four was back together. And what tends to happen as they get more tired late in games, they get less sharp engaging in wingers, and they become more and more narrow. And that's when you want the twinkle toes. That's when it all changes, right? So I was okay with it. I'm not sure I would have picked it. I would have had 1 secure player in the front line and 2 loosey-goosey players rather than 3 runners that just we're not sure what we're going to get.
Yeah, the balance did feel a little bit off. And Paul, some people have questioned why we started Saka and Trossard for Chelsea and then Martinelli and Madueke for this one. I have to be honest, I don't really share that concern because the semi-final was important and I liked us going strong. It just felt more of a balance issue. So do you agree with that? Do you disagree? Where's your head at on the lineup?
Yeah, so I think I'm staying with this feeling that we should have selected our lineups working back from this Premier League game and said, who don't want to start that game? Now, I think we heard from Mikel that Saka had a bit of a niggle. And, I didn't know that while we were doing the IR. I still think that you're going to want to play either Saka or Trossard in this game from the point of view of control and maybe from the point of view of having a finisher. Now, you got Martinelli, and he can or cannot be a finisher. You could say that of most people who score a goal, they'll miss some too. But Trossard and Saka just have that bit of control generally in terms of the ball sticks with them. So one of them has to be in the lineup for me. When I saw the lineup and saw Martinelli, Gyokeres, and Madueke, in a way, I think the three of them share the same issue, that the ball doesn't stick, that they can run, they will run. Two of them can create. Madueke is not a goal scorer so far. We've seen him score in the in non-Premier League circumstances. We haven't seen him score in the Premier League. So until that happens, if you look at his touch map, everything he did in this game, none of it got as central as Martinelli did. Martinelli, I think, had 4 shots in and around the 6-yard box. So in one sense, fair play to him. He's getting into the positions that none of the other two do. But they're both very much, all three of them, you would say, are very much runners. None of them are the control player. And if you don't have Saka, you need what Saka does on the other side so that you can get into shape, rest defense, control it, recycle it. And I know Trossard wasn't great when he came on in this, but it was a different circumstance, different game state. And, Mikel could be listening to this and say, yeah, but you don't know all these different things. Saka had a bit of this. I thought he'd be available. I was planning to play. Who knows, right? But that front three, don't like it. 9 times out of 10, I don't think it's the right lineup for us together. Individually, you can make a case for 2 of those 3 players. But I always thought we were going to struggle to control the game in the attacking third the way we wanted. We did have a good period in this game, I thought, at least one, but certainly one defined good period in the middle of the first half. But outside of that, I don't think we control that attacking third. Anything. Forget goal scorers, because we can make it inevitable if you control the game, and we just couldn't make the ball stick up front, control it, get into that rest defense, and kind of get them in a headlock.
I mean, Forest weren't in great form going into this one. They sat in 17th, even if they did beat West Ham in their last game. But this did have the makings of a frustrating game because, as I said earlier, our record at the City Ground isn't good. Like I said, only 1 win in our last 6 across all competitions. They had 9 days to rest and prepare for this one compared to our quick turnaround after Chelsea. I mean, I'm not using that as an excuse. It's just what it is. And it took us a little while to get going. And actually, it was Forest who had the early moments. I mean, I'm using that word generously. Dominguez had a shot that was blocked by Declan Rice, I think. And then Raya was sharp to come out and stop Hudson-Odoi running through. But we should have taken the lead when the ball fell to Martinelli at the back post after Madueke tried a volley and it sort of bobbled towards him at the back post, and I was already celebrating in my living room. You know, the goal was virtually open. Celts was scrambling across. We had 2 people there ready to tap it in, and he puts it wide. He's got previous with these sorts of chances. I remember one against Crystal Palace in the pink kit all those years ago that he fluffed before scoring a few minutes later. Then there was the one at Portsmouth a couple of weeks back where he didn't connect with the ball properly, hit the post. This should have been a goal, right? And you can see in the replays where he gets the contact all wrong, he sort of heels it away. And I don't think it's a difficult chance, and there might be time to get into our attack as a whole later on. But in a tight away game, when the first goal is so important, that needs to hit the back of the net. And Clive, it's fair to highlight that Martinelli chance. But beyond that, we didn't manage a single shot on target in the first half. And I think so often when Arsenal are involved in these games, we're too busy like focusing and hyperfixating on one chance that could have swung the game in our favour. Does our mentality need to become more about volume instead of having one or two moments to focus on all the time?
Yeah, it would be nice. This game took me through a few emotions, right? And when I'm out and I go to the Emirates and I meet people and they always say to me, "Oh, Clive, great to meet you. You really calm me down a lot." And I sometimes say to myself, who calms down the bloke who calms everybody down, right? And in this weekend, that one was James for me. I listened to his On the Whistle podcast, and he said something, because I just fresh off watching Manchester City get bopped by United. And then when we played, although we were frustrated, there was never any chance of us getting bopped like that. And in every game that we've played this season, we haven't looked like the inferior team. So even at our lowest level, we can control a game of sorts, which means our eyes now are going forward. Slowly but surely, they're going forward. As our defenders are stabilised again. We had the no sleeper Gabriel period where we were a little bit unstable and we had some moments there. But now we're stabilised again. We've seen a back four, people that know what they're doing. And now our eyes are going forward. And I think with every right, our eyes should be going forward. Because this team has really been, if there's one elite area of this team, it's a 6 or 7 behind the ball. Do you see what I mean by that? And we need to sharpen up ahead of the ball. And we need to think about our patterns of play there. It's very difficult to have this conversation without thinking about how we attack. But we need to think about our patterns of play there. And I think we're asking too much of our defenders. I think our defenders are becoming high usage positions. Look at the touches of the players on the pitch now across football. They're happening in the back end of the pitch. And with our fullbacks, we're asking them to do a lot of work. A lot of doggies, a lot of attacking, and we're judging them in parts of the pitch, which I don't think they should be judged on consistently. And so it's a difficult one. I think we just need to focus on having an intensity to score the way we have an intensity to defend. It's a slight tweak in mindset. They have a little bit more care and attention to those last actions. I thought Marino was unfortunate with his header because Declan Rice, you ever see one of his corners or free kicks, they curl about 15 yards in the air. It's very difficult to get that correct. And I don't want anyone else on that apart from Marino. So that's just a little bit unfortunate. He misread the curl. But the Martinelli stuff, without picking on him, we've seen that before. And we have to get better in these areas. We have to get more certainty here. It doesn't mean you don't need to be a superstar. You just need to take a bit more care and attention in what you're doing there to make sure we get the value from that high level big chance. And I think that's where a lot of frustrations are coming. And people will point to who they want to point at, whether it be our wingers, whether it be our centre forward, whether it's our attacking mids. But I always think we defend as a team, we attack as a team. We need to have a little bit more care, attention and desire to make the runs we need to make to get into those areas. So that's just a high level one. I've got a lot more, mate, later on, but that's a high level one. I just think we need to care more about these details because this stuff is important. Those points didn't cost us now, but we're playing teams that could be resurgent later in the year or looking for relegation points, and we may rue this day. We may do. I don't want to. I just don't want to.
Well, let me stick with you for a second because you say that we need to have a bit more intention and conviction in the final third that we don't always have, whereas we have it in the back line. Where does that stem from? Is it from the manager? Is it from those on the pitch? Is it like a collective mentality thing? Because it's a very hard thing to pin down as an improvement because it feels quite intangible. So where do you think that goal scoring bite needs to come from?
I think it's just simple things, right? So remember the chance, I think Declan Rice's 2 goals at Bournemouth. Hung back there, cut back, slot. I think it was Zubimendi when Saka went down the line. I can't remember which game for it. It may have been the next game thereafter, where he gets to the byline. Maybe Liverpool, actually. We get round the defenders. He cuts it back, and he's got too close to the ball carrier, and it becomes a fight. But if you hung back, you slot. It's these patterns when you make those runs down the overlaps on your triangles, these patterns to just hold your discipline and to make these things count in the last third. Don't make it a 50-50 call. Sometimes look at our defenders going to attack the ball in the box and you think they've got the right level of desire. You know, if Gabriel's on the back post there, I think he scores on the weekend. You know, we trust him to do it. He did it in a game previously, didn't he, after he made a mistake. And at Bournemouth, he smashed it in. And that's what we want. And I think it's just a collective thing. It's just about adding that level of execution, which belies our field tilt dominance. You know, and this is not new, is it, really? Let's be honest. This is not new. We're top of every league that we're in every competition that we're in, and we haven't got a goal scorer. It's quite clear, isn't it? It's quite clear. So that's on all of us, isn't it? It's not on any one person. It's on a few people. We haven't got a goal scorer that really stands out. Is that a problem? Well, it is when you have 2 0-0s in the league. It's a problem. We just haven't been punished for it, you know? So I do think we need to sharpen up.
I mean, there was another big moment for Gyokeres towards the end of the half when Murillo completely sliced the clearance on halfway. He actually did well to capitalise, and to be fair, I think it's good defending from Murillo to get back, but I never felt that Gyokeres had the ball or the situation under control. I don't know if that feels harsh, but that moment felt like the exact thing we signed him for, to excel in those situations with the grass to run into, in transition. But again, are we looking at an issue of separation? He couldn't get away, couldn't get his shot off in time to trouble the goalkeeper. In general, I don't think this was a good performance from him after laying some good foundations to build on against Chelsea. And Gyokeres has now failed to register a shot on target in 13 of his 20 Premier League appearances this season, and he's had 7 games with no shot at all. So I don't think he and Martinelli have been able to build much of a rapport, a chemistry between one another. And again, it goes back to the issue of profiles. Did we have the right balance on the pitch at the time to get the best out of either of them? But Paul, I'll ask you, what did you make of his performance, and talk me through the chance? Should he have done better, or was it just a good recovery, or a bit of good recovery defending from Murillo?
Let's work backwards. It was definitely a great recovery tackle. And if the defender does it right, he has the advantage because he can do the sliding tackle, he can telescope the leg. But I'm with you. I didn't think there was a moment where, like, I think his first touch is not great, but then it comes down off his knee or something, and that's either a great touch or a lucky touch. I don't really care. He gets that ball to pop away from him so he can then build speed and run after it and aggressively run to the box. So there's a moment where I'm thinking, oh yeah, he might create that, and then I'm like, nah. You can see the defender coming back at him. I'm like, I kind of know how this is going to end. He almost gets the shot off. So it's, if he'd had if he was Haaland and he had 3 or 4 or 5 of them in a game, I'd be like, yeah, okay. Some you win, some you don't. But like with Gyokeres, he's probably only going to get his one look. And it just felt kind of, after the fact, it felt, yeah, that's kind of what you expect. He would, when we played him that time in the Champions League, whatever that was, what was that, a couple of seasons ago, Phil? Was it?
About a year.
It was last season, wasn't it?
Yeah,
last season.
So, I was there.
Yeah, so fresh. So
that's the new version of 1989 at Anfield. Everyone was there for that sporting game.
Yeah, all I was.
When we played him, he looked like a guy you were not going to pull back in that game, right? He didn't have that much of a game, but then late on, he kind of got his chance to show what he could do as opposed to what his team could do. And he had separation, he had speed, power, and you're like, ooh, that's why they talk about Gyokeres. And he had 2 or 3 chances where he really stretched our CBs. He's not stretching anybody's centre backs at the moment, which makes me wonder, like, maybe we'll get more from him than this. But those physical powers seem to have evaporated 10% or 5%, which is all you kind of need for suddenly the centre back gets back at you. So the version of Victor Gyokeres we got, I'm not surprised Murillo got him back. I think Murillo's pretty bloody fast, but I would expect a little bit more from him, but I don't expect a little bit more from him. So, and that was kind of it for him. He was probably the most invisible player in the game, with a bit of a rivalry from Odegaard, who on a second watch was better than I thought. But when I watched him first time around, I'm like, I did not think Odegaard was playing. And
Well, let me ask you about him, because he was going to be sort of my follow-up question. I thought he struggled in this game. I mean, he got bossed around by Elliot Anderson 2 or 3 times, muscled off the ball way too easily. He wasn't adventurous or reliable enough in possession. And just generally, we're seeing a trend of Mikel taking him off a lot more than what we're used to, because before he was like one of the untouchables. But now we're seeing him come off with 20 minutes, half an hour to go. Are we getting into the some games are Odegaard games and some games are not Odegaard games territory? I know, Clive, you've sort of flirted with this idea a little bit, but are we getting to a stage where we have the options, maybe in Eze, maybe in Merino, to not rely on him all the time?
No. Now I'm going to say that for the purposes of
Next
debate, it's an open question for me. But I think we're over-egging it a bit. He sucked in this game for Martin Odegaard standards, or from what we'd want of our most important creative player. This was one of his worst games, and I think there are reasons for it. And you see the various responses to it about, oh, there's Odegaard, and like, there's a criticism of him that I think is completely wrong in this game. This was not the game that Martin Odegaard kept dropping in, kept going too deep, kept being everywhere but where you want him to be. Martin Odegaard was everywhere you wanted him to be in this game. The problem was we couldn't get him the ball. He couldn't get the ball. He couldn't keep the ball. He got run over when the ball came to him. Apart from in our little purple patch in the first half, there was the 10 or 15 minutes. And that was, if you go back and look at it, that was kind of a good Odegaard spell. He wasn't brilliant, but he did Odegaard things and we did Arsenal attacking things. Outside of that, like, I'm a bit of an Odegaard fan. I literally, at one point in the first half, had to check, was he playing? Even though I knew he was playing, and I saw him at one point. We couldn't get him the ball. He couldn't get on the ball. He got, like I say, he got trampled when the ball went near him. He had a good 10-minute spell. Outside of that, like, he was rubbish for Martin Odegaard. But this was not the game where you're like, oh, what's he doing standing between the two centre-backs? And why? He was doing the things you would expect him to do. And a couple of times he dropped in, it was good. We picked up the ball, we moved it around, we got into good situations straight after. But this was, if your mind is, oh, Martin Odegaard's everywhere but where you want him to be, that was not this game.
No, I mean, I wasn't saying that. I think in an ideal world,
this was this is very much aimed at the chatter I saw that you see after a game. I think people have a very fixed view of what they think the problem Martin Odegaard is. Sorry, Phil.
No, all good. I mean, I think in general, his ideal role in this midfield, you've got Rice doing the box-to-box stuff. You've got Zubimendi more or less anchoring them. Maybe there's an opportunity for him to switch with Rice. But Odegaard is the one that's supposed to be comfortable in possession, linking the play, maybe being a bit creative and picking the locks in the final third. He only made 21 passes in this game, and he played an hour. There was no shots, only one key pass. I just think in general, he wasn't really involved or impactful enough. And Clive, I know you've been on his case a little bit recently, and since he's come back into the team, there have been good performances, there have been mixed performances, and there have been bad performances. I think he needs time to still find his feet in this midfield three, but to me, it's becoming clear that he is not someone who is going to drive this team forward. I think there are 4 players in this team and 1 goalkeeper who are always there. Raya, Saliba, Gabriel, Rice, and Saka. Those are the 5 people who I think this team belongs to. I thought the team also belonged to Martin Odegaard, but I think for a variety of reasons over the last year or so, that has not transpired. His role and standing in the team has changed. Where are you on him? I know it's ridiculous to talk about this as we're 7 points clear, top of the Premier League, top of the Champions League. But for me, it's a topic, right? It's about how do we get this guy in the team performing well consistently enough with those partners around him? Because I do think we have scope to change things now, and he doesn't need to be there all the time.
Yeah, this is something that I first picked on probably overly aggressively after the Villa away game, because the football environment has changed for Martin Odegaard. We now have much more of a double pivot this year with Rice and Zubimendi. And so positions that he wants to take up on that right-hand half of the pitch are taken up by Timber and Zubimendi. Right? So the areas that he wants to stand in the Villa game, Marino started centre forward. He rolled into that side as well. We have redundancy of situations there, and Marino was hooked at half-time, remember? And Zubimendi was hooked in that game as well. I'm thinking, no, this isn't right. This was working, right? So we need to. The issue is with how are we going to integrate Martin Odegaard into a team that needs him slightly differently. So it's about role. It wasn't about performance. His best game, Odegaard's best game, was probably Villa, when Declan Rice didn't play. And there was a period in the second half against Bournemouth when the three of them were playing, which I think is the best game the three of them have played together. Right? So for me, it's about finding the role. So as a team, we need to think about what we need. So when you leave a team, you have one role. When you come back into a team, you have to see what the team now needs. As players have matured, our fullback positions have changed. The authority that Calafiori and Timber have, I'm using them as an example, has gone through the roof in attacking spaces. Zubimendi and Rice gone through the roof. Saka's the same. Left-hand side, it's mix and match, whatever we do there. So where's the gap? Where's the position? Where do I need to be? Do I need to be in build-up? There's always a moment you need to be in build-up, right? So, because that's just the way we rotate, right? So do I need to get myself as a split striker, as an attacking mid, hold my position a little bit more so I can bounce off a centre forward? We just have to decide what the role is. And what the role we require will make us select the player. And what was really interesting in this game was he actually tried. He tried to receive the ball back to goal in the interior, and that's when he got smashed. So what happens then, what you tend to do when you're under stress, and this is not just Odegaard, it's everybody. So when Declan Rice is under stress, you know where he stands? Left back. I can see the game. I can come from my left. I got the whole pitch on my right-hand side. I can diag it. I can see it from left back, left half. You know what I mean by that? He plays the left-hand side. That's his default position. When Martin Odegaard is under stress, he comes out of the block. I need to get touches. I need to feel it. I want it. Or I take easy work. Passing to my centre-backs, knocking it to Saka. I get a progressive pass for that. And Scott sends me a graph saying, look at his progressive passes. Right? And I'm thinking, I want a bit more GA. Because that's what this team needs. This team needs GA, goal threat, penalty box threat. And so the role has changed. So you have to decide how, as a coach, how are you gonna affect the areas of the pitch that we want to affect, which is around that D. There's a period in the season we were flooding that D, really coming from the outside in and really getting to those points and getting shots. I feel we've stopped that a little bit. I feel like the fear kicks in and then we start to go around. And I tell you now, as I'm watching the game, I'm saying, how can we get it to Saka for the last 20 minutes? All I was thinking about, how can we get it to him? How can I get it? How can we get it into the box? And if I'm feeling that as a fan, nervous, wanting my 9-point lead, what do you think the players are doing? They default to actions. They default to things that they know have worked for them, you know? And this is where you need to be brave, have positional discipline, and do the third man runs, even though you're emptying the midfield. You need to do the third man runs to move people, to penetrate into backlines for cutbacks, etc. So this is just what we're going through. It feels a bit clunky at the moment. But my issue with Odegaard is you need to maybe adapt your role to the change in the team. This isn't a talent discussion. This isn't whether he can play discussion. Does he need to receive the ball slightly differently so he can see where the tackles are coming from and then step out of it and manipulate the ball, which no one can better him at, manipulating the ball. No one can. But you've got to now change where you receive the ball. You need to be a secure passing target. We talk about security of our front three. Well, our fourth forward or third midfielder is the most secure person. And he wasn't secure. He's not able to. So decide, I need to take it in here. If I can't secure it, I need to buy a foul. I can't be head first into the sand 3 times in a game. That can't happen. And we're getting transitioned on. And so this is a challenge. And this is why I feel for certain games, there is a role where that person needs to be different. Somebody stronger, more disciplined in that position. Think about this, right? We've been crowned world and Premier League champions way too soon. So every time we rock up somewhere, we are the game of their lives. Everyone wants to be the team that wants to stop us. They're looking to get hold of us. They're looking to get into us. They want to stop us. Can they get a clap from their crowd if they get a point? It happened at Sunday. It happened here at Forest. We need to be ready for that. More intense, much more authoritative in the early phases of the game to control games. And maybe my favourite away game of the season was probably Newcastle, because of the way we imposed ourselves in all different ways, length of pitch, physically. And then once we went behind, Odegaard came on and absolutely was brilliant. His role was defined, the team was pushed back and he sliced them to death. There is a role for everybody, but I don't think we should just default to picking that player every single game, because I don't think every game now suits him.
Paul, did you want to come in there with a comment?
I did, yeah. So as I listened to Clive, what I really like first of all is I find, obviously, he's great in the various dimensions he extracts out of it. But fundamentally, I think we saw the same Odegaard game, which I love, and I love what Clive brings to that. One of the things I think is what Deitch and his team got right was an energy mismatch, which is not an excuse. I'm not saying, we were tired and therefore we did. But like, energy is a thing. And 1/3 of the games we play this season, the other team will come with more energy. And our patterns of play are essential. And when you're under that stress that Clive's talking, it wasn't just Odegaard, it was a number of players.
Yep.
Now, other teams have tactics too. They had a plan for Odegaard. That's the clearest thing I saw in the first half. I could see why he wasn't getting the ball. I could see why they were ready to trample him. And in some ways, it wasn't just about Odegaard. It was certainly about Odegaard, and he had a bad game. And to Clive's point, he should have done much better in those situations and ridden tackles, anticipated, used the, kung fu wise, used the opponent's strength against him. There were many things he could have done better, right? The other thing he could have had was more energy. I think if Clive talks about Odegaard bouncing, if this was a game where Odegaard was ready to bounce, if his energy state was higher than those around him, he would have done things and he would have embarrassed them 2 or 3 times, and then suddenly the dynamic, they start stepping off you a little bit. But the other solution in this game was you hurt them on the other side. Because, if they're crowding Odegaard, if they're crowding that space, and they were, then you hurt them the other side, which is where Trossard would have come in. You switch to that side, and now you build that platform that we see so often with Saka on one side, with Trossard on the other. So it's not just about Odegaard. There will be games when a player, there's kind of an energy mismatch, they got the upper hand, and you move it to the other side attacking wise, you hurt them there, and then you can come back to the side where your star player or the player you're looking to build off. So it's not just about Odegaard. I actually think I'm still in the camp where I still want Odegaard to start almost every game, and we should be able to make that effective, but there's also the argument that we now have other options, and you don't have to play him, and there are games that suit him more and less, and I agree with that. But I think we got some things wrong, and I think part of what we got wrong was in the setup. Our energy levels were not at their energy levels. You can understand why. They were at home. This was a big game. Deitch loves playing us because he kind of knows there are things he can do that can give us a hard time. We can get the better of him, but he knows he can get the better of us. And Mikel got it wrong. A selection before this game when he didn't plan ahead the selection for this game. And therefore we came into this with a sub energy level. It's not that we were knackered and we couldn't win the game, but they had a much longer period of rest to charge up for this, to be ready for it. And we used a team that looked way too much like the team that expended all of that energy at Stamford Bridge in an away game just a few days before. And that was an energy mismatch.
Yeah, can I just hold you on that energy thought there for a second? Because the best team this weekend in the country was the team that's played the least football, which is Manchester United.
Yep.
And the teams that played in the apart from Chelsea, who did have some issues against us in the midweek game, they won at the weekend, but the other teams didn't. If I think I got that right, and the energy that Man City had was really low, and I thought our energy was okay, but understandable. However, where we got a break, which we didn't get last year, was the Portsmouth tie, where we could literally rest 10 players, and so. Energy it is a thing, hence why I've got Man United to finish in the top 4 in my prediction, because I think we're going to play 20 more games than them, right? So, and now coming the weekend, I'm already thinking about resting every single player and the coaches for the Man United game, right? So, and the
without really good patterns in the attacking third, you make life so hard when the energy isn't there. Because what you need to be able to lean into is playing in bursts, knowing where players... You don't need all that mental energy of trying to work out patterns in a front three that doesn't really click. We've really got to sort out our attacking patterns.
What's really, really clear, I said it to myself, I hope I've not said it already, coaches can coach out of position, big time. I mean, Scott Parker just went to Anfield and did it to them, right? So for Burnley, there are less goals being scored. I heard on a podcast, I hate when I state stats because then Scott comes back and tells me I'm wrong. But I heard in another podcast that there's already been 17 goalless draws this season, something like that, which is more than any other than last season. And we're not even just over halfway through. You know, so
you're right.
Am I right? Thank you, Phil. So so basically the game is changing. Touches in those central zones. I used to be moaning about Eze in the first part of the season getting 30 touches. Maybe I'm thinking, mate, you get 30 touches, 4 shots, I'll take that right now. Do you see what I mean? The game is changing. People are scrushing that area. They're not being done down the middle. Anybody can set up. They can set up a 4-4-2 block. They can set up, Carrick's been there 3 days, a 4-4-2 block, he can set it up. In possession, he can go 3, pushing his fullback on, like we did with Kieran Tierney back in the day, having the centre mid on the slant, and going in behind to 3 forwards. Anyone can do it. I know a guy at Berkhamsted Town, a mate of mine, who was doing that 3 years ago, right? This is not exciting. This is what you do. Anyone can do it. So where is the game going? It's going to individualism, timing of arrival into space, and making sure you have patterns in those areas and have the right people in the right areas with the right attributes. That's where the game is going. Your one-on-ones, and can you tackle to create broken play? Saka's chance where he created, I think it might have been for Rice, Phil. He tackled his man. And he clipped to the back. But that's not a pattern. That's our ability in duels. Oh, guess what? I may have just clocked that one years ago. Do you see what I mean? So I keep saying, see what I mean. Someone in the comments said to me, you keep saying that, Clive. I got to stop doing it. So apologies.
It's your punctuation, Clive. Good luck trying to extract that.
I can't get it out of my head. So, do you understand? This is where the game is going.
I do see what you mean, Clive.
Thank you.
I think there was a realization or an acknowledgement, at least from Mikel, that he got the lineup wrong, maybe the selection a bit wrong, because we made a change at the break with Trossard replacing Martinelli, who was on the naughty step after missing that chance. And I thought, okay, right, let's get serious now. Trossard's on. He usually makes an impact from the bench. It didn't really turn out that way because the first 10 minutes of the second half were not good at all. And it wasn't long before Marino, Jesus and Saka were on because we couldn't get anything to stick up front. Forest were winning the battles and the duels in midfield. And by that point, I still think there was half an hour to go. So plenty of time to change the game, change the flow of the game, and get a winner. I think the changes did help wrestle back some control and momentum in the game. And we were creating some chances. I mean, obviously, the two that stand out, the Saka header, which is a brilliant save from Matt Seltz, who gets across his goal really well. I thought that was looping in. To be honest, it's a great header. And actually, it's not something that you would expect from Saka, because I think a few times the ball has dropped on his head at the back post and he sort of just does a little penguin jump. There's no technique or conviction in it. He's just standing there to head the ball.
Under 10's header. That's what he looks like.
Yeah, literally,
sometimes.
just get your head under the ball. But there was real sort of technique and craft on that one, so no issue with how he took the chance. It's a great save. The Marino one, you spoke about it earlier, Clive. I think normally I would expect him to score there. It's a difficult one. just at least get it on target. But then he has every right to go for the ball. He probably takes it off Gabriel at the back post, and that's who you would normally back in those situations as well. So there were chances, and I think we were pushing Forest back. There were sustained spells of possession and pressure, but I never felt that we were close to breaking them. And in my mind, there was a general lack of urgency in the way that we played. Our centre-backs were too comfortable playing between themselves. It was too slow. Zubimendi and Rice kept dropping deep to pick up the ball when we didn't need them there. I thought Timber, especially in the first half, was too involved in possession in central areas as well. I know that was part of the plan, maybe for him to drop in a little bit, but he was trying to spray the ball out wide all the time, and that's just not his game. And even towards the end of the game, we had Saliba sending crosses into the box from the right half space. He was trying to get beyond Saka on the overlap. Just a lot of weird stuff that doesn't look and feel like Arsenal, right? And I understand that when a team are in a low block like that, maybe having a joker in the pack can confuse people. It can be a bit, I didn't expect Saliba to pop up there. But there was just a lot I didn't like in the second half. And Clive, again, you've spoken about some issues like how Odegaard operates in the midfield currently. Let me just poke you about the fullbacks, because I can feel you're ready to go. So I'm going to wind you up and let you go on this
Why
one.
do you guys do this to me? I'm old. I could go at any minute.
You can do it. So just tell me, I don't think you need to be a super tactico to realise that Arsenal play through their fullbacks a lot. They are very advanced. At the moment in this iteration of Arsenal, they're having lots of touches, lots of influence in the game. Tell me why we need to blow this up and start again.
Well, we don't. I think it's about how you appreciate space, right? So I know why they're doing it. They want to get 5 on the back line to pin people, right? So, but it's how you leave space and how you arrive in space. That's the key for me. And what's happening is sometimes our best attacking is coming through our fullbacks, right? So when I see Timber stretching on a left foot cross, I'm thinking, well, I'm surely we've got someone else who can do that a bit better, right? But he's getting in there. He's making the movements. I can't criticise him for getting in there. I wish I still got regrets about him taking the head off of Gyokeres at Stamford Bridge. Sometimes, can you just stay out the way a little bit, just a little bit, or maybe go to the back post, So yeah, I just want to see our attackers take more responsibility in those situations, right? So I know it's what we're doing. Hey, look, the Bayern Munich game is still in my mind. Some of the rotations in that game, I didn't complain about them at all. We got the result. It was incredible. People popped up everywhere. It was incredible. But sometimes I think simplicity is required. Forest are just trying to stand. They're not biting on rotations. They're far more positionally disciplined. It's about spaces to cover. Right, so you've got to bounce, move, and go. Third man runs, receive, up, bounce, down the sides. You've got to move them. You've got to attract them slowly and then move them. By standing there, you're just giving them something to do. You literally, that's what you're doing. And then potentially they weren't good enough, but Chelsea were, Aston Villa were. They're able to transition from the middle of your pitch. And you look at your pitch, you're seeing your fullbacks running back, making fouls and giving penalties away, because he's knackered with attacking. And so for me, I want to see Declan Rice in that half space, rather than Jurriën Timber. That's on the left-hand side. I know Timber's doing a specific role because Calafiori's not there. If Calafiori's there, you won't hear a word out of me. Do you see what I mean? But I've done it again. but I do think, I prefer to see, the way I like to see it on occasions, particularly when we're trying to score, I prefer to see my fullbacks cradling the team with my attackers inside of that structure. So that in the smaller spaces, I want to see my talent, people who are going to score slightly nearer the goal with the ability to combine with people and move off instinctively. Right? Our attacking numbers are telling us our attackers are too far away. And I love my attackers, but if my best player is on the right wing, chalk on boots, all of the time, when we're 0-0 in a big game, and I'm hoping he can whack it into the box for a defender to head it in, I'm not sure that's the best use of our star player, our franchise player. I think we have to find another way to free him to create damage. This isn't a problem now, because what's going to happen is when the pressure really hits, that's when you're going to find out these details will matter. Where are your key players? What form are they in? What can they do when that chance comes? I want to see a lot more of our attacking players in the last line than our defenders in the last line. Not continuously, but I don't want to see Timber there too long, too early, not really appreciating the space in the same way an attacker would do. And that's not a critique of him. I think 3 weeks ago, we were saying he's the best right back in the world. He's moved to left back, and we're now digging him out for attacking.
I still think he's playing well.
Yeah,
he's just not doing enough that's helping us.
Yeah, exactly. But you see how conversations change because your football environment changes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, another player that suffered for the changing environment has been Miles Lewis-Skelly. No double pivot for you to go into. Now you've got to stand out wide. Timber, we're asking you to do things. Ben White still managed to force the game his way, so he's doing the same things he's always done because he's aggressive with his 40-meter sprints, and so you better give it to me because I've just done 40 meters, and he's smart like that, you know. So yeah, we have to just manage the change of environment, the maturity of our players, wanting to do things versus the system that the manager's put in place. That's where I am with it, and I think I want to see our fullbacks use slightly less because we've got injuries back there. I think we're stretching them out physically, and we don't want to see any of them go down injured.
Yeah, I really like that explanation because I think this hasn't been something new for me. I always think our attackers are a bit wide under Arteta, to be honest. And like you said, if we just think about it, where the people are standing, we've got Trossard on the left, Saka on the right, then one lane inside, it's the left back and the right back, and then we've got the centre forward. For me, that needs to change. We need to switch the wingers around with the fullbacks, let them carry the wide areas, and then we've got Saka able to cut in and shoot closer to goal, Martinelli, Trossard closer to goal. For me, that is much more efficient and dangerous than having a fullback there. Unless it's Calafiori, who I think is very capable in those sort of corners of the box. I think we need to change that. Paul, I wanted to just ask you quickly. Marino and Saka came on, made a good impact. Jesus and Trossard, not so much. Eberechi got 10, 12 minutes off the bench. I think he could have come on 10 minutes earlier, maybe. Why do you think he didn't get a chance to come on and sort of swing the game in our favour? Give him 20, 25 minutes to really come on, sit on the edge of the box, dig out a shot, combine with somebody in the left half space. It's just not happening for him at the moment, is it?
Yeah. Well, so you answered the question with kind of where my mind was going. I listened to Tom Canton and Charlie Watts discussing Eberechi and 1-2 other players who are not really getting much of a look in at the moment, and they had a really good discussion around it. And this isn't about how they framed it, but I've seen other folks talking about it, and when they're talking about why doesn't he play Eze and why, I'm like, he kind of, it's on the player. When look, there's an argument that it's on Arteta. I get that argument. But the other thing is, when you get your chance, you need to show up. You need, like, this was a game in which 2 players were already invisible, Gyokeres and Odegaard. The last thing you need is the player you bring on, with or without those players, to also be invisible. And even in games where he's had a chance to play, he's had minutes and it was favourable to him, he has not lit it up and reminded us who he was.
I mean, I will say in the last month, he hasn't had a chance because he played that game against Portsmouth when there was 10 changes and then he's had scraps off the bench. So I think before that, I would understand it, but I don't think he's had any chances at all to show anything in the last few weeks.
And how did he do against Portsmouth? Because I don't think anybody thought it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, he should have been great. Ethan was great.
In midfield, wasn't he?
Yeah. I hear you, Clive, right? There's always he could be better in a different setup. But I think he's got to impress, even if it isn't his ideal position. He's got to impress. And if it's not because he played great, it's because he held up his end defensively, or he put himself, I don't mean he put himself about, but it can't just be, he didn't get to do all the Eberechi Eze thing. We know that Mikel Arteta has basic standards he's looking for from every player on the pitch, Foggin standards, right? And we know when Eze is great, he's great, but the other side of his game needs to be there enough. We see what Martin. Look at Trossard, what he developed in his game, in terms of holding up his out of possession play, his defensive aggression, and I just think there are too many aspects of Eze that have not shown up in terms of his overall game, how he carries himself, his energy, his ability to drop into our shape and help us defend. If I'm the manager, I'm thinking he's the guy who's most likely to leave the portcullis down, right? And when he's had his attacking moments, I just don't picture Arteta not giving him chances if he's lighting it up in training. I can kind of picture what he's like in training. He's a great training player on the ball, but not enough. And without the ball, he makes Mikel Arteta feel nervous. And say what you like about Mikel Arteta, he has us 7 points ahead of the opposition. And there's a lot of, well, he needs to get... Where's Eze going to get the confidence if he doesn't get to play? Arteta doesn't have the luxury to, I've heard, give him a few games to build his confidence. He's not going to give him a few games. He doesn't have a few games to give anybody. Your job, when you get on the pitch, is to make Arteta feel you're going to give contributions. As Mikel Marino does 9 times out of 10, if he gets a look on the pitch, he puts himself about, he doesn't let the team down without the ball, and he does things with the ball that give him a shot to get more time on the pitch. So there are tactical discussions, combinations, how he's used, how he's been, the fixtures he's been given. But guys, you want to get on the pitch, do something with your 2 minutes, your 5 minutes, your 10 minutes, with or without the ball. Either is good.
No, look, I'm not saying that what you said is wrong, but here's why it's wrong. No, I mean, I think at some point you need a bit more trust, and I think he's come in. Whether or not you think he was a panic buy or not, I think it's very clear that the club had been following Eze for a long time. There was obviously a conversation between him and Mikel. I don't think any signing gets approved without Mikel's say-so. So this is someone that he would have had total buy-in to bring into the club. And I think he played a lot during the start when we had Odegaard missing. We had him sort of playing off Marino when he had those good games against Spurs and Bayern. And we just thought we'd found him. And then all of a sudden, he plays badly off the left once. He loses
Spurs,
Matty Cash
can I
once.
say, Phil, Spurs were terrible.
Yeah, but
we set up a bed and breakfast in the central area in front of their box. To Clive's point that every team knows how to crowd that area. They didn't. And I think it's a bit of a false read. Okay, we combined them with Marino and that created some space. I agree. And can I come back on one other thing, which is, it's not that I think Mikel has written him off, but I've seen him before where he takes a player and he's basically saying, you're not getting to play till you fix these things, work on them, come back a stronger player. Maybe the second half of the season is for you. Sorry to interrupt, Phil, but a couple of clarifications on what I think is going on here. He was great against Tottenham. Tottenham were abysmal and left that space in the middle for us time and time again, and he plundered it. So I think if you're doing statistics, sometimes you throw away the really high figure and the really low figure. And I think if you throw away that game, he didn't have a lot left.
Okay, interesting.
I think,
Clive, you want to come in?
Oh yeah, this is one of my favourite topics, right? So because I think we're still learning about him. Let's be honest, right? He's played in 3, maybe 4 positions for us: right 8, left wing, and a true stick on 4-2-3-1 number 10. Right, and I think he's had in some good moments in all of those positions. So when he first came in, I'm thinking, oh man, 25, 30 touches. Man, this isn't really what I expect. Odegaard gets 55, 60. I'm thinking 10. Do you see what I mean? And then, I've done it again. And then basically, I think, but I looked at it a bit more different. I think, well, hold on. He's affecting the areas that we really need to affect, which is on the D, getting shots. The manager says, We got to get him to that position more because that's where he's at his best. He's shooting off both feet. It's just fantastic. Like I said, I go back to my reference point, the Newcastle game. The shots in that game were unbelievable. And I'm not the only one thinking this way because suddenly I can see comps of Eze going around my timeline again. So where is my social media tunnel where people are just saying, hold on, we need something else here now. We need goal scorers. People who can score, that appreciate and arrive in space at the right time with timing, and they score. They're not high touch. We don't need high touches. How many touches Saliba, Gabriel having in the game? Look at their heat maps. Look at their build-up. Look at their influence in build-up. We don't need any more touches. We don't need more we need people that can affect the last third of the pitch. And so in time, your mind will arrive based on how your team plays and evolves. The more you get watched, the more you get stopped, the more space becomes a premium. You need execution and last touch, last pass ability. We don't need first pass ability in this team anymore. We don't need that. Well, we've been well coached. We can get out of anything. And when we are pressed, we've got a goalkeeper +1 and bang, off we go. Deal with that. We're now 1-on-1. So we don't need that. What we need is last touch, last chance ability, combination play to open teams up. And you need the bravery of somebody, the strength of somebody who can protect the ball in these areas. And the other players are, and by the way, we're doing a post-match podcast, right? So I didn't say this when we were running through Villa after the set-piece goal and we scored 2 goals in 3 minutes and I'm jumping up and down so I pull my calf. I didn't say that then because it was a different game. We got them back. We got the first goal. We opened them up and we were flowing through them, right? So, but in some games, particularly away games, I think we need something else. We need the ability to threaten, and so I think Eze, the team is coming back to him. And so the first thing I'm looking at is what Paul's highlighted, is off the ball play. He is running, mate. He is running. He's saying, I'm not going to do this again. He showed it in the last home game I went to. He's sprinting back 30, 40 yards to go and catch the ball up. He's running, he's working, saying, pick me, pick me, pick me. I need to build trust with you off the ball. There was a time I didn't want to play Trossard left because Martinelli was a better defender. Now Trossard's gone up. His defensive play off the ball is so serious.
Yeah.
And so you need to be dropped to feel that. And I think Eze's had that moment and he's now starting to move. He's starting to work. But we got to trust in his ability to appreciate space. Sometimes don't get attracted to the ball, which means to our eye, we may feel he has less touches. But actually for the team and the threat, it's exactly what we are moving towards. Because the game is going to call for this soon because our patterns are going to get analysed. So this will change, guys. I promise you, this will change. There are a few more people talking about Ethan now. Why are they talking about Ethan all of a sudden? We weren't talking about him a month ago. You know why? One touch, at your feet, shoot. We know what we're missing. It's coming towards those players. The reason why Ethan's not in the squad, because of Gabriel Jesus. Has it had a shot now for a while? Then it's like, okay, what are you doing, by the way? Are you adding to this group? Do you see where we're heading? So this is what's happening, and I'm enjoying it, to be honest. Because the team always presents itself to you based on the football environment that's in front of it. And we are moving more towards him. He has to build up the trust off the ball. I think he's doing it. I think the manager loves him. He quoted the amount of games he's playing. I think his moments to come. Yeah, I really do. And he has got a 5-year contract in his pocket. This player is the future of our attack. And so it's going to be so interesting on the role. And by the way, I'm not clear on the role yet. When we have a narrow team blocked in, I think the left may suit him. As long as he hasn't got Matty Cash running off him. Do you see what I mean? So the left may suit him. So I just feel we've got to get him the football more. How are we going to do it? How are we going to introduce him into the group? That's too much of an investment and too much quality, too much ability to have him walking around doing after-game sprints, penalty box runs. That doesn't feel right to me. It really doesn't. So it's on him, but it's on us as well to make sure we integrate him properly.
Yeah, I mean, we do need to move on from this game a little bit. I mean, overall, I think a point is fine. And when you consider the Man City and Villa results, it actually turned out to be a very valuable point. And this will be a theme of the season. It's so competitive, so congested, and on any given day, anyone can beat anyone in this league. I have to be honest and say I was quite frustrated with the overall performance because I thought, and I think generally we lack the ability to go through the gears sometimes, and we just love us to smell blood and go for things more. Now, I can say all of that in the knowledge that we're 7 points clear in January, which is a brilliant place to be. And my issues about this game do not have to mean anything about the season we're having in general. I don't think Arteta is a fraud or that we need to sell 5 attackers this summer, because 2 things can be true at once, which is an incredible concept. But in my mind, this was a chance to lay down a marker. City had dropped points again, could have gone 9 points clear, step on some necks, kick Villa back as well. But ultimately, 2 goalless draws will leave people a bit frustrated, but it doesn't mean that we're not in a great place. So that was my feeling of the game. I thought we could have maybe pushed on a little bit towards the end. It didn't happen. Forest defended well. I think it's worth noting that as well.
Yeah.
So, off the back of 3 away games in a week, we were tired. Forest had time to prepare. I'm willing to just draw a line under it and say onto Inter, and then more importantly onto United. More importantly, I think we should take a break here because we've been going an hour now and Elliot's going to kill me if I don't. So it's time to tell you about some brands. Here's Elliot with some ads and we'll see you in a second. So let's have a conversation about the attack, because that's 2 goalless draws in a row. It can happen, but I think it's worth highlighting our forward options a little bit, as a collective, because we're not getting enough from them in terms of end product. We're not getting enough quality at key moments, which is a problem when you're chasing the biggest trophies in the game. Our identity, and Clive, you mentioned this before, our identity isn't and probably will never be swashbuckling attacking football under Arteta, but we've got a good group of forwards who are firing blanks, right? There was some good work posted by Orbinho on socials, which Andrew actually pointed out in his blog as well this morning, about our front line and their general level of output. When you're actually faced with the numbers, it's not pretty. And I'll read some of them out to you now. Victor Gyokeres, 1 goal and no assists in his last 10 Premier League games. That 1 goal was a penalty. Gabriel Jesus, 1 goal and no assists in his last 8 Premier League games. Noni Madueke, no goals or assists in his last 24 Premier League games. Gabriel Martinelli, 1 goal and no assists in his last 19 Premier League games. Bukayo Saka, no goals and 2 assists in his last 8 Premier League games. Leandro Trossard, 1 goal and 1 assist from his last 7 Premier League games. And Odegaard, 1 goal and 3 assists from his last 16 Premier League games. That is small. Those are low digits. Those are not good enough. And obviously, these are only league stats, so it doesn't count anything that's happened in the Champions League or any other competitions. The ranges are a little bit different for each player as well. But it does help you visualize how barren some of those stretches are. And our top scorer is Trossard with 5 goals in the league, which doesn't even put him in the top 20 for goals scored in the Premier League this season. So, Clive, I'm gonna come to you first. How would you diagnose this issue? Is it a quality issue? Is it a tactical issue? Are we not putting the people or the players in the right places? Are we not urgent enough or, playing with enough conviction in the final third? How do we get more from this attacking group? Because, I'm completely aware that we are a strong defensive team. We're excellent out of possession. We don't lose many games. We don't concede many chances. But at some point, we're going to need some of these guys to start firing. So how do we do that?
Wow, you come with the big
No
questions,
pressure.
didn't you? Yeah, how do we do it? I think I'm not overly concerned about it at the moment, because why should we be? Because we are generally winning the games. But there's going to be a moment when the pressure comes on where we're going to really need to find a goal out of nowhere. And at the moment, what's covering up these cracks has been the set pieces. The set piece goals, particularly the first goals. I read that of our 15 wins in the Premier League this season, 11 of them have seen our first goal come from a set piece or second phase.
Oh, you're stealing my stats, Clive. I had one. I had that one ready to go.
You had that one, did you? And I bookmarked that one because I thought, cause that's the feeling I've had. And to see it written down was like, whoa, that's something that is great. It feels sustainable until it isn't. And then what do we do? What do we revert to? What are our patterns?
Can I come back with another one?
Go ahead, mate.
We've dropped points in 7 league games this season. 5 draws, 2 defeats. We didn't score a single set piece goal in any of them. So,
and how do you feel? You know, it's when you're watching. It's a team that we love, right? So it doesn't really matter how we get there. But how do you feel? You know, when Declan Rice had that free kick, we think, go on, give us that chance. We're not the only team that's thinking this, because as we said earlier, our possession coaching has gone through the roof. You know, you can see what these teams are doing in Europe. We are slaughtering teams in Europe. Our ability to win the ball, control areas, play where we like, the one-on-one ability with the ball, particularly defensively, to create transitions on teams that don't normally feel that pressure that high up the pitch, it's really affecting teams. The power, the pace that we have, the physicality across all 11 players. You know, I saw something yesterday that Everton, of their 9 players that beat Aston Villa, 11 players, 9 of them were over 6 foot. There's a level of physicality all through the league. Leeds, look what they bought in the summer. Physical players. So there's a lot of parity. There's a lot of parity going on in the league at the moment. A lot of out possession play. Just forcing us and forcing me to think about attack differently. And so the way I see it, for me, the way to change that is about a little bit more proximity. Now, you may say you're putting players into areas that are already crowded. Well, I don't care, because the reason why teams squeeze spaces is to make sure that you don't bother coming in there. And when you don't come in there, then you're taking longer crosses, longer events, which they can set themselves for clearances. And the Forest centre-backs are very good at that. Everton's are very good at that. Go around the league, we've got players that can deal with the ball in the air, etc. So it's proximity, combination, space arrival will change things for our attackers. You know, and making sure they have positional discipline to stay in the areas where the ball's going to arrive. You know, so this is just a timing thing. I'm not overly concerned at the moment, though I probably contradict myself, because I went for a walk this morning. I went for a walk yesterday. All I thought about was our attacking play. So I'm probably lying. But after the Villa game, I'm probably less concerned. But I think it's something now. It's out there, Phil. All these numbers are out there. Everyone's thinking about it. Everyone's talking about it. Don't you think the players can be thinking about this? Don't you think the managers can be thinking about this? I'm actually quite pleased. I'm pleased that we talk about this now. I'm pleased that it's not just on the centre forward who hasn't had a shot on target since I don't know when. I'm pleased it's not about just that, because I do think it's a collective issue. It always has been for me. You know, so I'm pleased that it's out there, and I'm interested to see how we adjust our patterns to fix a problem that's not massive yet, but could be when crunch time comes.
I mean, Paul, we know that set pieces are a huge strength for this team and how valuable they have been for us in terms of breaking games open. We've got outstanding deliveries coming in from Rice, Saka. I think Madueke has improved a lot this year. We've got Gabriel attacking everything that moves in the penalty area. But do we need to find a way to move away from that crutch, that security blanket, or will it just prove sustainable over the season, which, to be fair, it mostly has been for this group?
I think we can probably survive it, but it'd be nice to not just survive, but to thrive. And the piece we're waiting for Godot, we're waiting for the attacking patterns where you're like, ooh, look at these guys play. We've seen it in a few games. Now coming into this, like something we haven't talked about in this particular discussion, and I think it impinges on a few things, is we've sacrificed quite a lot with the Zubimendi-Rice pairing and how they play and where Rice plays, which to me makes great sense when Calafiori's fit and firing and in the team, because to the eye we keep Rice basically as a double pivot and we don't lean into him being an attacking force and Zubimendi being able to cover in front of a strong back three. which could be on any particular day. It could absolutely be Saliba, Gabriel, and Timber, and nobody's getting past you, so you don't need Rice and Zubimendi back there. So, I mean, Rice gets forward a bit, but we're not really leaning into it. He hasn't become, he's no Granit Xhaka for us in the left 8 to poke that bear. And that has been fine because we've leaned into, Arteta's favorite new toy, the Joker card, Calafiori, zipping into that spot, and not as the inverted midfielder, but the inverted left 8, and creating patterns in the left-hand side. And without Calafiori, our left-hand side, like, we're a different team on a reasonable day with Calafiori in the mix. Now we have two sides to the attack. Now they can't. Now if they sit in on Odegaard, they're going to get screwed on the other side because with Calafiori connecting with whoever we got there, tearing them a new one, Rice rampaging in all that space, forcing turnovers, all that dynamism that we saw just a few games ago that feels so far away at the moment. Now we seem staid, grey, Soviet communist Russia in the 50s, out in the fields, with the sides cutting it, like it's all gone terribly grey. And yet just a few games ago, we were starting to express ourselves. The upside is if we can get the right players together, enough of them, we can develop some of those patterns. But that front three in that last game, you might even say that front five. Who were the front five? Well, I guess you would say it was Odegaard. And who was it on the left-hand side?
Timber.
Wasn't really anybody. Yeah. Well, Timber, but he was also in the middle. Then he, and look, there are things I like about that move with Timber, and I think he'll get much better at it if we have the time to give him that role. But he's not going to, we're going to switch him back to the right soon enough, so it'll end up in a mixed experiment. He is a baller. I think he could grow into that game if that's into that role. But he's also not a left footer, so he can't spin some of those passes that the left-hand side need quickly to spring Martinelli or the left 8, but there's no left 8. So it's one more season where we've got a broken left-hand side is the biggest issue with our attack. We're going to talk about players and goals and like putting the ball in the back of the net. But if you have only half of the pitch, and we, as to Clive so eloquently said, any team can block the middle. So don't be asking yourself why we can't get centrally. Almost nobody can get centrally. We can hurt them from the sides, but when you go back to just having the right-hand side, you're screwed. And so we need to unlock the left-hand side. That tends to be Trossard at the moment for obvious reasons, unless you have Calafiori or Gabriel Jesus connecting with Martinelli, though. Look, it hasn't been great, but you've seen things happen there that we haven't seen in other games with other players. That whole left-hand side needs to be unlocked again, and then we'll start to see us rock again. Now, how you do that, Clive's itching to get in there, but I definitely think there are things to work out with this Zubimendi Rice thing when you don't have Calafiori, because I think you've leaned way too far into a way of playing that then deprives the left-hand side till somebody else comes up with some other combination on that side.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I'm not sure I answered your question properly before, but I wonder, as football is developing and changing, I know this may sound counterintuitive, but I wonder if we're going to head back to two strikers. Because one striker is not just Gyokeres, is having 10 touches, and people are managing that central threat. So if you go split strikers 1+1 or split wide 2 strikers, I think if tactics evolve, and I was again on my walk today thinking about this, are we heading back this way? There was a rumor, I'm going to say this with a tongue in cheek, but there was a rumor that before one of the games, before Calafiori got injured, that we, in that warm-up, that we were going to play a back three. And again,
Calafiori is a centre forward.
Yeah, I don't know. But I'm just saying to you...
Was it the kind of rumour you believed, Clive?
I don't know. It doesn't matter, but the fact that's even out there made me think slightly differently. And then the injury happened, we settled back. and I think we played right back in that game. Remember?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so there was a bit of chatter about that, and that just really intrigued me. Everything's open. Football evolves. It changes. Right? So if you want to hit that D, how are we going to do it? Is it with a true 10 or is it with double 10s? We've done that this season. We played double 10s, played in pairs. You know what I like? Played in pairs. We had pairs at fullbacks, pairs at centre mid, and pairs up front. And I loved it because we had a real framework from which to play. And the reason why I loved it, I said this before, it's a framework from which to make change. When you have a squad like this, one of your key responsibilities as a manager is to create a framework which is simplistic for change. When you're playing in those groups, it's easier to maintain a balance. We started the podcast talking about our front three. While we talk about our front three, we should talk about our fullback winger combinations, our interior combinations, not our front three combinations. Because now when you're making change, you're making it on a balance and a framework which is simple to follow. You know, so I think this is really important for us. You know why? 'Cause we've got two teams. It's not important for everybody else. We've got two teams. And what we don't want is redundancy of roles on the pitch and people not even getting changed who could be used on a given day because we are forced into a way of playing which maybe the team is evolving away from. This is a big thing for me because I think football's going to go this way, far more bigger squads. It's a very attritional game. We're speaking about energy and fatigue. I said, this is the way forward for us. We're lucky we've got the Madueke Saka thing. Everyone's saying Saka should have started because he had a bright half hour. They've forgotten the 4-month hamstring operation. I haven't. Right? And I can't have that happen again. You know, so we just need to create a framework for change, simplicity, so it's easier to retain the balance when we make those changes because we have a system and proximity of players that's very easy to see.
I'm really curious to see what happens even throughout the rest of January because I think we've got 4 games and I absolutely think there's scope for us to bring people in to change things around. I think of names like Eze, Havertz, Marino, Calafiori is going to be back soon, hopefully. I really think we can change the dynamics of this team, which is actually a nice segue into my last section, which is a quick preview of the Inter game. And I think we're in a great position to consider this, maybe not a dead rubber, but a free hit, because the way the group phase works this season is that a top 4 finish gives us home second legs for the last 16 and quarterfinal rounds, and a top 2 finish gives us second leg home advantages in the semi-final as well. So it's still important to finish strongly and not just qualify in the top 8. I think we're really well placed to do so. It would take one hell of a collapse not to do that at this point. But regardless of what happens against Inter, I would say we're basically guaranteed a top 2 finish on the assumption that we can beat Kairat Almaty at home in the last group game, who were ranked 311th in the UEFA Club Coefficient rankings earlier this season. So assuming is never good, but I'm quite happy to do it in this occasion. So with that in mind, I do think there is scope for Arteta to make changes and sit some players down tomorrow, bring some others into the group. And I wouldn't bat an eyelid if he made 5 or 6 changes, even though that's probably unlikely. I would love to see it happen, but there's just something telling me in the back of my mind that this is an away game at San Siro and Mikel's going to want to go with his trusted soldiers out there. Paul, Eze, Waneri, Norgard, Lewis Skelly, Mosquera, Havertz. Just a few names there that I would like to see involved potentially or could be involved tomorrow night. What are you thinking in terms of rotation?
Yes to all of that. So the right thing to do is to get out your team sheet and study it for the Manchester United game. Work out who you not only want in that lineup, but who his maximum energy, because to Clive's point, and he scared me a little bit, Man United are all energy all the time right this moment. They're feeling great. They battered Man City. Absolutely battered them. Like, you've seen results like that against City over the years, and you're like, yeah, but if they'd only put the ball in the net the 97 times they could have, they absolutely battered them. So let's assume a strong and not just a good United, but a strong, energetic United at the Emirates, and anything less than that is gravy. And so you pick the Man United team, and then you work backwards from that and say, okay, some players are going to have to play, but not in positions where we need the energy. Now, there will be energy. It'll be at home. It'll be the Emirates. It'll be against Man United. But let's over-egg the pudding here and put out a high-energy, high-intensity game to right the sins of the last game I just watched. And then you pick your team. Now, we're going to be away at Inter. They're... I've done my research for this. We're going to be away at Inter. We're going to get the chance to counterattack here is where I'm going with this. Okay. In a more elegant framing, we're going to get to counterattack. I'm not saying we're going to sit in the whole game. I'm just saying that this will not be a game in which they're just sat in. They're at home. Okay. They have a way of playing. We will get to counterattack. They will have 3 central defenders. We're going to need creativity and counterattacking props, and that absolutely leans into Eza, who's a brilliant counterattacking player, makes great choices, picks out players, will find space for himself at times. So, yeah, and when he gets his chance, he better shine. And Ethan was great on his last outing. I don't know if he gets... Arteta's been reluctant to give him any minutes in the first half of the season almost. I'd like to think, as Clive and I were batting back and forward, it's because he's priming him, saying, you're going to get your chance, but before you get your chance, here are the things you need to show me in practice and in your few minutes on the pitch. And when I see that, because the thing about Eze is, to go back to that a little bit, I agree with Clive. I'm seeing more of those things in terms of his energy and his... But Arteta doesn't want you doing it for a bit. He wants to know you will do it without question, without him looking at it. It needs to be etched in. Not that you're making the changes, but the changes are made, they're bedded in. It's etched into the wafer, like it is with Trossard. He doesn't need to brief Trossard anymore on the importance of his role without the ball. He doesn't need to look at him. He's got that cover. He doesn't need to get him off at 70 minutes. And so he's going to ice you long enough in a very positive way to say, here are the things you need to do, and then you're there. Show me that, then you're there. Not, it's a work in progress. That seems to be more Arteta's way of doing it. So here you go, guys. You're going to potentially get on the pitch. They will play against Inter if they've convinced Arteta. They're ready to go, and he doesn't need to hover over them and watch them and worry. So this is absolutely a game they should be playing, but it's also on them.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the game itself, I was just going to say, we know what Inter are. We know what they do. It will be a 3-5-2 with lots of pace and energy in wide areas, but their main threat comes from the strike partnership, which is what you mentioned before, Clive. Lautaro Martinez, Marcus Thuram up front, developed a really strong partnership over the last few years, and there'll be a handful for whoever plays at the back. Although they are missing 2 kind of important players in Denzel Dumfries and Hakan Çalhanoğlu, so let's see what kind of effect that has on them. They need to win this game. You know, they've lost their last 2 in the Champions League. They're very much in that block of teams beneath us and Bayern. I think only a couple of points separates them in 8th, and then, or is it 7th, and then Barcelona in 15th. So there's lots that can happen in these last few games. They need to win. Coming back to you, Clive, is there anyone you're looking at who could come in and make a statement? A phrase that you like to use is finding people. Who could we find, or who do we need to find at San Siro?
Well, the Portsmouth game was really instructive. And what I was going to say then, Phil, just give us a bit of a preview on Inter, because I know as our European correspondent that you would have seen them play a little bit more than me and Paul would have done. And so
speak for yourself, Clive.
I haven't seen them play yet this season, maybe only highlights in some Italian games. So I haven't got a feeling for them, although I now know the system and who plays where. But I was really impressed with Ethan at Portsmouth. I really was impressed, and the angles the way he received the ball and how he could turn away and travel, but clip it off, play forward, go back looking for combinations, win tackles. Don't you think he's got a list of things to improve? Making slide tackles on the touchline. Wasn't doing that last year, was he? As a 17-year-old one-way winger. And he's really trying to develop his game. I would love to see him get rewarded with this trip and with some minutes on the pitch at some point. I think he's a really up-and-coming player that for this all-in squad, where we're going to win the biggest things in the world, he has been a slight victim. I'm not saying that a senior pro needs to be out of the squad all of the time, but I think I'm hopeful that he gets a chance. He'll get a chance against Wigan, hopefully get some minutes in this game, hopefully get some minutes against Carrot Almighty, and we go from there, right? So I think that's where we want to be heading, and I think it's just very important to see players like him active and feel like they're part of this. As for Eze and Havertz, we'll see what happens with Havertz, where he is, health-wise, how many minutes he can do. The period for Eze is coming up. I can feel it in my bones. It's coming up. It's okay to ride the hot hand, using a basketball phrase. Trossard was hot. It doesn't look so hot anymore. You know, Odegaard, Bournemouth, Villa, super hot. Not looking hot at the moment. You know, and so sometimes you've got to ride that hot hand until they're not hot and someone else gets an opportunity. You know, so Jesus came back, looked so bright, didn't he, when he came back? So bright, scored a goal against Villa. Oh my goodness, what a player we found him. Gone flat. Completely flat. You know, so it's what we do to recognise that. Can we see it coming? Marino had a flat spot a little while ago. Now he's looking lively again, looking more aggressive again, looking like a leader again. We've got to make sure we can see when someone's flattening out, and we ride the hot hand and we select those players and trust them to play rather than running people out. The Odegaard bounce that you had against Bournemouth is not here at the moment. It may come back in by the Man United game, but does he need to play this game as well? So we have him for Man United, home game against the Emirates, where it's a little bit nervy, and he can get on it and he can move it and settle us down for the first hour of this game. That's the sort of planning and rotation I want to see to maintain the key pillars of this team in tip-top form.
That makes complete sense, because I think we've worked really hard to put ourselves in this position where we're going away to Inter and it's not life or death. You know, we've built ourselves a really comfortable cushion at the top. We've got scope to maybe draw or lose a game. Not that we will want to do that, but we've got the scope to do it. And I think players can come in, show something different to the manager. Like you said, if someone's gone off the boil, there's a chance for someone else to come in and show something. So for me, that feels like a good place to finish. We should probably get something out before the Inter game, which kicks off. I mean, let me check my watch, in about 10 minutes. It's a very short turnaround, but that might be a good thing because we've got more lined up for this week. There are some, pods ready to go after the game. We'll have an instant reaction for you after tomorrow's game as well. So if you're not already signed up to the Patreon, what are you waiting for? Just $5 a month can get you 20 extra pieces of content per month, like the countdown, scouting videos, data deep dives. There are interviews coming as well. So you can definitely get a return on that investment, and it helps support everything we do here. Otherwise, all that's left for me to do is thank the guys. Clive, always a pleasure chatting.
Thank you very much.
Paul, thanks very much.
Woohoo!
My name is Phil Costa, and thanks for putting up with me for this episode. There's lots of football still to come in January, and I love that we're halfway through the month and I haven't bothered with a single transfer rumor yet. So stick with us. Thanks as always for listening, and we'll talk to you after Arsenal 10 into 0.